Hey everybody, welcome back to JDM World. Today we're going to have some fun. So we're down in the theater and we're going to configure this Muse processor. So yeah, we're going to do a setup from beginning to end, and this is a 16 channel processor, and we're going to configure this for 9.1.4 Atmos, right? So that's what I like to listen to, and I've got a speaker set up for that. So we're going to go through and do the full configuration to get us to a point where we're ready to listen using the Muse in that configuration. We'll go step by step, but this is going to include everything from setting speaker levels to setting speaker distance and delay. I'll talk about how I deal with integrating the subwoofers that are sitting behind a mini DSP and what kind of delay to use there. And we'll even touch on EQ a bit. Now remember, the Muse doesn't have built-in auto EQ now. Aspect is almost here, and that's going to be the module that gives the Muse that capability. But today, we're going to kind of do everything manually, and it's pretty cool. For those of you that are hands-on and likes to really understand what's going on in your home theater, then this is going to be the video for you. So with that, let's go ahead and get started, and I'll show you the first step in configuring the Acurus Muse. As we get started with the setup, one thing I'd like to point out is that since the Muse doesn't have an on-screen display, it's got a cool TCP/IP web server built in, right? So it runs over your network and it'll automatically grab an IP address. To access that, you go to the front screen and hit that Ethernet button, the network link, and it'll show what your IP address is. Now, this is if you've got DHCP handing out an IP address on your network. If you don't have DHCP running on your network and you need to set a static IP address, what you'll do is you'll go into the settings and then go into the network icon for the network settings, and that will allow you to select either DHCP or static IP address. Hit the static IP button and then you can set your address to whatever you need it to be. Most people have DHCP running, so it'll go ahead and grab that address. Now, with that, let's go ahead and start setting up the speakers. Now that we have the IP address, we're going to start the configuration on the unit. Some of the things that we want to do can't be done remotely, so we have to come to the front panel. The first thing we're going to do is select our layout, meaning the number of speakers in the bed and the number of Atmos channels. We're going to go for 9.1.4. So you will start by hitting the menu button and then go to the speaker configuration area. To turn on your bed channels, you'll just tap the speakers that you want to activate and they'll turn blue. To get all 9 channels going, we need to add the front wides. So you can just click there. If you wanted to change this, you can simply just click around and turn things on and off as you desire. But we want them all, so we're going to leave them all turned on. For subs, we want one sub, and we're going to run that to a mini DSP 2x4 HD, and we'll talk about that in a bit. So we'll leave that there, and then we run 4 Atmos channels, and it's going to be a top, front, and top rear. If you have these wall mounted, you could do front heights and rear heights, but we're going to do 4 tops, meaning top front and top rear. Now that we have everything selected, we will return to the main menu and the Muse will save the layout. Now that we have the configuration set, we're going to go in and configure each speaker. So we'll go back into menu, select speaker again, and from here we'll move on to the next page. So this is the speaker layout page, and this next page is the actual configuration of each speaker. And if you look, you can see that we have all of our speakers now listed around in a circle, right? So you've got your 9 bed channels and then your 4 Atmos channels and then your subwoofer at the top. In this section, there's a lot of configuration we need to do. So we're going to set the delay to start with, polarity, and then size, small or large, and then the crossover. For our environment, we're going to, at this step, set each speaker to have crossover of 80, set them small, and then I've gone ahead and measured how far away each speaker is from our center point, and I'm going to set the delay, right? And remember, this needs to be relative to your furthest speaker. So your furthest speaker will be a 0 millisecond delay. And then on the Acurus Muse, you'll add 1 millisecond of delay for each foot that the other speakers are closer. Now I've measured that and I have all those distances, and I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So you're going to see me go through each speaker, set the delay, the polarity, which will be 0. I've already checked all the cabling, it's all correct, and the size and the crossover. For fun, here's a time lapse of me and my special helper measuring the distance of all the speakers. So remember, in the Muse, you can do delay in 1 millisecond increments, and the recommendation from Acurus is to equate 1 foot of distance to 1 millisecond of delay. So here's kind of the cool little process we went through to measure everything. This is another time lapse of me going through and actually setting all of the speakers up. So I'm setting the delay, I'm setting the polarity, the size, and the crossover to 80. I still can't get over the display on this thing. I mean, it's really cool. It makes it so easy to see all of your speakers and then at a glance really understand what you got going on. Now we're going to set the individual speaker levels so that they're all about the same. The way that we're going to do this is on the Muse, we're going to set the volume to 73, and then we're going to cycle through each speaker, and we're going to set its output level at 85 decibels. And we're going to use SPL C weighting slow, and we'll use pink noise coming out of the Muse. So to do this, we'll go back into the settings, we'll go into the speakers, then we'll move on to the second screen, and then we will select each speaker and turn on the pink noise generator. So let's start with the front left and click on pink, and then you'll hear this come from the speaker. And I'll turn that off so I can talk. But what I'm going to do then is cycle through each of these, and then at the main listening position, tweak the speaker volume up and down and make sure that it reads 85 decibels. So here we go. Now that we're done with level setting of the speakers, we come to EQ. Now, this is the hard one. So today, without Aspect, which is the auto room correction technology, which is going to be awesome, but without that, EQ is a manual process. Most people don't really deal with a lot of EQ at the high level of speakers, especially if you think about the audiophile crowd. You know, they really want their speakers to do what they're meant to do without any external EQ, and you know, they'll depend on room treatments and that kind of thing. And I kind of fall into that camp for anything like over 1,000 hertz. Now for bass, we're going to use the Mini DSP 2x4 HD, and there are a bunch of videos out there on how to tune subwoofers using that tool, and that's what I like to use. But for everything else, the Muse has 5 bands of EQ for each speaker. Now, I recommend using probably 4 of those bands from 80 to 1,000 hertz, and really you're just looking to pull down the peaks, right? It's kind of hard to boost, but it's easy to pull down. So you want to pull down those peaks and kind of give yourself a flat curve. And then if you have something from 1,000 to 20,000 that's just egregious high, you'll pull that down as well. Now, I recommend using a house curve. So it gives you this, let me see, here we go, this kind of slope where your bass is hotter than your treble. And a lot of people like to have their bass, 6, 7, 8, 9 decibels hotter than their treble. So you get that slope down. And that's what I would recommend you doing with this too. So, grab a microphone, grab REW, and then for each of your speakers, you'll step through each one, run a curve, at your main listening position and maybe a couple other positions as well, and look and see if you've got any big peaks, and then try and knock those down to flatten things out. And at this point, I think that's probably enough to have things tuned up from above subwoofers all the way to the top end at 20,000 hertz. After that's done, you would want to do another round checking your volume to make sure that the volume is not out of whack anymore, and adjust up and down a little bit to get that back to that 85 decibels. Now, let me speak about one more thing there. 85 is pretty hot. That's loud. You can tune this to 75 if you want to at that same location using the same process that I detailed out before. Now, I like to go ahead and do the 85 just as something new. I've never tuned quite that high before, but it's something fun, something different. But whatever pleases your ears more will work out just fine, because it's kind of a relative volume. You know, whether you tune that number to 75 or 85 doesn't really matter in the big scheme of things, but I went with the 85. So that will get you through the setup of an Acurus Muse to a point where it should be pretty damn good. I mean, without the external automation of the aspect system, this is really, really nice. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, what about Dirac and room correction and auto EQ and those things? If you need that, if you want that, aspect is going to be absolutely the way to go. And I'll do a video on that when that technology drops and is released, and show you exactly how that works. And let me tell you, it is going to be really, really cool. I've heard a little bit about it and seen some of the details and some of the specs, and I'm super excited. So as soon as that's available, I'll get a copy of that hardware, and I'll put that up and show you exactly what that looks like on your Muse. So hopefully this has been a great introduction on how to configure a Muse for an advanced Atmos configuration 9.1.4. And maybe I'll do that .6 one of these days, but I have to cut some more holes in the ceiling. If you've liked the video, please like and subscribe, and drop some comments down below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about this setup and the process, because, you know, I know this manual process isn't going to be for everybody, and I'm curious how much of a deal killer or an advantage that is going to be for you. So thanks, and we'll see you in the next video.